He says this is now speaking about the heart, right? This organ that we have in our bodies, which is the king of all of the other limbs, and the limbs follow this organ, this heart. And so he says the heart, in its essence, as a in and of itself, in its essence, is needy of Allah from two angles. The first is it's in need of worshipping Allah, and this is what he calls al-illatul gha'iyya. It is the final purpose, or the final cause. Right. So this is clearly from the verse in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create jinn and men except to worship me. So here, the purpose, the end goal, the objective is clearly explained. It is to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. Right? And so the heart, therefore, is in need of Allah Azza wa Jal. The heart is in need of worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. Right? The heart is in need of that. And this is what he calls al-illatul gha'iyya. This is like the final cause. Right? There's a discussion here to do with, types of causes. And these terms here, al-illatul gha'iyya, al-illatul fa'iliyya, these are technical terms. Just to give you a very quick example of the different types of causes. Like, if I have the table here, the table is used for, eating from, reading from, studying from. This is like the end objective. This is the al-illatul gha'iyya. Right? This is the end cause, the end objective. Right? So that's at the end. And then you have the material. This is the material cause, which is the wood. And then you have the, what they call the formal cause, which is like, when you actually sit down and you design the table. So someone's got to design the table. Then there's the efficient cause, or the effective cause, which is carpentry. The person who actually performs the actions to bring this into being. Right? There's different types of causes. So these terms that Ibn Taymiyyah is using here, al-illatul gha'iyya, al-illatul fa'iliyya, these are just some technical terms. Here, all they're referring to is the end goal and the means to reach that goal. The end goal and the means to reach that goal. Very simple. Right? So the heart needs Allah in two ways. The first of those ways is the fact that there is actually an end goal and a purpose which exists, which is to worship Allah. Right? The heart is created to worship Allah. Right? So this is one. And the second is that for it to worship Allah, it needs to seek aid from Allah and place reliance upon Allah. Right? So this now is the means by which the heart arrives at the end goal, which is to worship Allah. Right? And as we shall see very shortly, this is summarized and expressed in one single verse in the Quran, at the very beginning of the Quran, and it is إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Right? إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, you alone do we worship, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, and from you alone do we seek aid and assistance. Right? So إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, you alone do we worship. This is the goal. Right? This is the purpose. And إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, this is the means. This is the root. This is the mechanism or the means. And the heart needs both. One as the end goal, as the objective, and one as the actual means to that end goal. Right? So Ibn Taymiyyah then, rahimahullah, he then says, فَالْقَلْبُ لَا يَصْلُحُ وَلَا يُفْلِحُ وَلَا يَلْتَذُّ وَلَا يُصَرُّ وَلَا يَطِيبُ وَلَا يَسْكُنُ وَلَا يَطْمَئِنُ إِلَّا بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ وَحُبِّهِ وَالْإِنَابَةِ إِلَيْهِ. He then says, therefore the heart, it can never ever be rectified, nor be successful, nor taste any pleasure, nor be pleased, nor feel good and nor be at ease, nor be tranquil, except by the worship of its Lord, and by love of Him and turning back to Him. Right, so here basically, because the heart has been created to worship Allah, then true satisfaction, true serenity, true ease, true tranquility, true rectification can only ever lie in the worship of its Lord. Right? So this goes back to the point that we finished with in the previous lesson, where we mentioned that, the discussion is going to go in that direction, where the distinction is going to be made between a believer, a person of Tawheed, whose heart is filled with the love of Allah, which leads him to ubudiyah, enslavement to Allah, which in turn is going to bring him all of these types of strengths, right? And these benefits of the heart being rectified and being tranquil and at ease. And in contrast, you find that those hearts which either are completely devoid of any, like for example an atheist or a materialist, for example, or a heart in which there is shirk, right? So there's love of Allah and love of other things, other deities besides Allah. You will find that a type of resilience and strength with a believer in encountering the trials and the tribulations of life, you will see such resilience there that you will not see with those types of people. Right? And we mentioned previously as well that just simply if you look at where are the most suicides on the earth, you find it's in these atheistic countries, in China, in Japan, in the Scandinavian countries, right? These are the people who kill themselves because by necessity, in your view, in your belief, you have to be pessimistic. Pessimistic is always to have a negative view of everything. Why? Because you're going to die and there's nothing going to come after that. And so your life really there's no meaning to your life. There's as much meaning to your life as there is in the feces of a dog. Right? And this is a logical conclusion that you've got to come to. And so these people, like I mentioned before, there's actual statements from these people where they acknowledge, they admit that, that in a purely materialist, atheistic viewpoint where, there's no meaning, there's no purpose, there's a point at which it hits you so much that life is not even worth living because it's so pointless. And so that's what happens to a lot of these people when they come to the intellectual realization that my existence is as meaningful as the feces of a dog, right? It just hits them. And many of these people, like I said, there's no point living anymore. It's all make believe. You see, it's all. Once you come to that realization, you have to invent your purpose for living. There isn't an objective purpose for living. You have to invent your own, right? So you have to deceive yourself. You have to kid yourself. It's all just make-believe. That's what it is. And so that's why amongst the atheists, these people, that you find the most amount of suicides and, despair in life and, things of that nature. And those people who are otherwise, because many of these people, they'll come and they'll start, well, no, I'm satisfied in this, whatever, But intellectually, you are just deceiving yourself. You're kidding yourself because you're intellectually forcing yourself to live a lie, right? Because objectively, there's no meaning behind anything. Because, if I said to an atheist, if I tied you up and decided to kill you, for example, what logical, objective reason could you give as to why that's wrong? Because at the end of the day, like the strong survive, and Darwinian evolution, the survival of the fittest and whatever, and at the end of the day, that's just part and parcel of this material world that we live in. So, what reason have you got to complain about anything that's happening in the world? There shouldn't be, but yet you do. And you try to blame it on some God that you believe is actually imaginary. So how does that even make sense? Like, you're always finding fault with the people of Iman and saying, oh, this God, that you believe in. But in your view, there actually isn't a God. So why are you just inventing a God to put all the blame on when there isn't one in your belief? And then you use that as a battering ram against the people of Iman. The whole thing, it doesn't make any sense. It's all nonsensical, right? It's all nonsensical. So because these people come to this realization eventually, then they become so depressed and they kill themselves. In fact, it just came to my mind, this man, what's he called, Hitchens. What is, this guy, the atheist, well-known atheist, Hitchens?
Peter.
Huh? Peter Hitchens. Was it Peter Hitchens? Or there's two of them. One's a journalist and one's the atheist who died.
I think that was Chris. Yeah.
Oh, it's Christopher Hitchens. Yeah. That's him, yeah. Well, he was one of the top atheists for how many years? And in his final days, he was sat there reading the Bible with a priest. In his final days, to get comfort, he was reading a Bible. Right, look up this man, Christopher Hitchens. This man is a notorious. He's one of the new atheists, who's launching a war against religion and particularly against Islam, right? And because he got cancer, and when he got cancer and he knew he was going to die, then it wasn't publicized very much. You have to dig this information. He sat there with the Christian reading, the priest reading a Bible, right? So as I was saying, the point that we were making was, oh yes, that's it. That the people of Iman are resilient and strong, and by virtue of their love of Allah and their servitude to Allah, and they are not enslaved to other things besides Allah, right? Because that's the downfall, that's the weakening point. And so it gives them a resilience and a strength that you do not find with the people of kufr and the people of shirk. And so Ibn Taymiyyah then, rahimahullah, continues to make the same point. ولو حصل له كل ما يلتذ به من المخلوقات لم يطمئن ولم يسكن إذ فيه فقر ذاتي إلى ربه. So then he says, if every type of delicious, nice thing came to him from the created things, he would still never reach that tranquility and satisfaction, right? Because he has there is a faqrun dhati, meaning that there is an essential need of the heart for its Lord, because Allah is its deity, and so the heart is in need of it, and it is only through that a person receives joy and happiness and blessing and favor and tranquility. So the point here then is that, as Shaykh al-Fawzan says, that if a person was to receive every type of thing of dominion, kingship, wealth, offspring, good health, and all types of things that the person enjoys, of eating things and drinking things and clothes that a person wears, the heart would never ever find satisfaction in those things. And this is true. We know that from what we see, what we hear, from the richest, most wealthiest people being the most despicable, depressed, unhappy people on earth, despite all the riches. You see even some of these people, they have so much money that they don't like the way they look, and then they get caught up in this plastic surgery, and then they go on this, and then they become so deformed, and it's all mental. It began as something mental. They weren't satisfied to begin with, right? So the riches never gave them that satisfaction. So then they started thinking, maybe if I alter my face, I'll become happy. And then they become even more and more miserable, right? So and that's with them having everything that they could dream of having riches, wealth, islands, yachts, boats, planes, this, everything you could imagine. They're still not satisfied. Why? Because the satisfaction is the satisfaction of the heart. You know, the tranquility is the tranquility of the heart. And so as Shaykh Al-Fawzan says, all of these things, they are temporary, they end, they finish, like all these things, they don't last, they expire. And as he says, لا يبقى إلا الله سبحانه وتعالى وما أريد به وجهه. That nothing will remain except Allah and whatever is sought, you know, whatever things are sought for His face. You know, whatever His face is sought for, which means the righteous deeds. These are the only things that are going to remain. Allah Azza wa Jal, and that which is sought for His sake, which are the righteous deeds which are sincerely done for Him. And I think what we can do is we can finish on this point, inshallah, today for today's lesson. Ibn Taymiyyah continues on elaborating on the same point, and we'll stop here for today, inshallah, and continue in the next lesson. So we'll end there. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.